Welcome back to Black Lotus Buds. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Michael. Thanks for joining us.
We're kicking off our second episode on the channel. We're talking about all things trading cards.
Today, we're changing the format up. Both Kevin and I felt like it was a little too formal last time. We had really enjoyed our conversations with each other and thought they were podcast worthy. So today, instead of reporting anything, we're just going to have a normal conversation like we have before. So the first thing I wanted to bring up, I got 3 little things I jotted down. If we get to them, we do. If not, it's okay. That means we're having good conversation anyway. But I am having these weird experiences trying to buy boxes of cards. And so I had bought some on TCG Player. And Kevin, I told you about this. It was I thought it was maybe resealed, and the guy said it was damaged, and it was from, what did they say, an authenticated distributor?
Mm-hmm.
But dude, it was all beat up, man. And I wanted to try something new. So the other day, I'm on my lunch break. It was a long lunch. I've never had, it was like a 2-hour break in our clinic where I work, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go to an in real life game store. And so I drove to one. It ended up being right next to where I actually live. And I kind of had a messed up experience. So I bought a couple packs of Pokemon cards to rip with my coworker. And then I bought 2 boxes of cards. And a little tangent here. It was Surging Sparks, which is supposed to not even come out until, I think, November 8th. So I don't understand. There's all these YouTubers and people are opening up. They're sold in stores. I don't really understand the release being later than everybody has the cards, but what do you think, Kevin, the price to the best pull in this Surging Sparks is?
Ooh, so this is the one that, just got released?
Yeah, I mean, we're pre-release, I think, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that, because I haven't received mine from official Pokemon, so I don't get it. It's coming on the 12th. But yeah, if you had to take a guess, fresh pulled, minted card.
Well, last time you were talking about Charizards, and you got me all excited with how much those were valued at, but I would assume, let me throw out a $600 figure.
Bro, that's pretty good. Right now they're selling for $300 to $400. And jeez, I'll give you a hint, it's another iconic Pokemon like Charizard.
Bulbasaur.
Close. It is one of the other starters, Pikachu. It's some golden clad Pikachu card. But anyway, to bring it back, nice. I ended up buying this box of cards, and I went on TCG Player to look up just that. What's the price of the best pull? Because I'm amped. In my head, I'm pulling that card every single time. So I look it up, and then I start looking up the stuff I bought, and I realize they charged me almost double. One of them was literally double. And so I tried to digest that for a while. But I couldn't. So I went back. They ended up... They, at first, were there are no returns on TCGs. And I get that. It's kind of we don't want to take resealed packs or it got damaged. Exactly. I feel like a good policy.
Yeah.
But... I said, well, hey, man, it stinks because I didn't realize these are double the market value. And that's just, I was I could have gone anywhere else and bought 2. And he looks, this guy, he's a young dude behind the counter on a computer. He looks it up and he has this disturbed look. And he's actually, you know, that is weird because you're right. And he's it's everywhere else. It's cheaper. What they ended up doing is refunding me and selling me one of them at basically the base price. And the market price with no markup. And I felt I was getting... The other one was so high marked up, I really just feel I bought them both at a fair price. Nice. If anything, still a little bit more expensive, but I was happy with it.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't gotten the refund yet, but it's I'm still maneuvering, where am I going to get these card boxes from? And I think the answer... I think I want to find a TCG Player store that somehow, whether I'm messaging the owner or I'm like, I just through purchases, I pull some good cards. I just want one that isn't direct. I want the person holding the box. I want them to see it. I don't want them to be like, oh, that box you got, it's not even wrapped. That must have been from the distributor. And I'm just like, I don't, I mean, maybe, but it's like, what a bad experience. And I feel like a shop owner, just like with this, I went back and said, hey, look, this seemed wrong. And they were like, it does kind of seem wrong. Will this fix it? And I said yes. And so, I want that. I want somebody I trust, and I want a reasonable price. So I'm going to try to frequent this place and see how it goes with them. But I think they're just kind of going to be too expensive. In regards to Pokemon, they were selling the newest version of trading card. I think it's called Surging Sparks for $190, and you get it from Pokemon for $170 delivered to your house. And so I guess that's fair.
Like a regular markup price, yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like they get it under that price, but I still think that's kind of fair, I guess. If, like, you're for convenience, I want to go in there, say I don't want to wait for shipping, and I'm trying to, like, record a video, and I want it, and it's just, like, I can see that. But, I mean, double was just too much for me, man. But I think we talked about it a little bit. Where do you get your cards and stuff, Kevin?
Yeah, there's a local shop near me that sells, like, plenty of Magic products, and they also have not just like packs or boxes and stuff, but they actually have like loose cards that they just are always buying. Anybody who wants to sell their cards to them, they'll give you a fair price, more than 50% from my experience, and then you can use it to store credit, or you can get a lesser amount for just cash. So I like local. I like shopping local. I mean, the packs that I bought from them recently were over market value, but they need to make their profit somehow. I'm sure their employees aren't really getting a tip or anything if they're running a tournament, which they were doing while I was in there.
What's crazy is I bought singles of Pokemon. They were $5. That's like super fair. So maybe singles maybe they're not really trying to be a box store. I don't know.
You mean single packs or single cards?
Single packs. And like, I mean, I think that's pretty much as low as it goes. I mean, there's like a booster bundle that comes with 6 packs, but I think the math on that was like $4 to $5 last time I bought one. So it's kind of like, it's weird. It feels like the packs are almost a better deal than the whole box. I just feel like that's backwards, but yeah, my math is probably off on that. It just feels that way because I felt like $20 over was more expensive, but I don't really know the math. So like a 50-cent difference, it might be made up on a whole box, but I didn't really. I felt good about $5 for a pack of cards.
Yeah,
I felt good about it.
Well, the market fluctuates all the time too, so you got to keep that in mind. That
it does.
Today it might be different than tomorrow.
Now, did you know, Kevin, and I'm willing to bet you don't, but you could surprise me.
All right.
There is a new game in town, like a video game. It's a phone game. It's a phone app. You know where I'm going with this?
No.
It's called Pokemon TCG Pocket.
Ooh.
It's literally like a week or two old. I'm kind of mixed on my opinions on it. Like,
I got a question.
So what it is?
Yeah, there you go. Well, what is it? Is it like where you keep your library of your cards in real life, or are you playing like the game on it?
So, it's not. You don't keep a library of your cards in real life, as far as I know, and I don't know that much about it. I just tried to like look into it, watch a few videos, but I think the main purpose is it's a virtual trading card game, independent from the regular trading cards. And you can find cards that are interactive. So they're super rare, and you click on them, and it zooms into the card, and it shows you the scene around the Pokemon that were in the card. And so it's this nice, artsy, animated, and you can also battle. Like, there's a Pokemon trading card game in there, so you can play it. But it's completely, like, you won't see Surging Sparks in there, as far as I understand it. Now, here's my one beef. There's a couple beefs I have, and I try to be open-minded, because I'm old and I'm like getting to the point where I'm like, at least I feel old. I'm not that old, but I feel like I sometimes am closed minded to the new, IP changes. And I think sometimes it's fair, but like this, I try to keep an open mind. It's something new people might like. It's for casual players, which I think is and you know what? This is why I was going to bring up Diablo, is because I felt like I was never a casual. It's just like not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You're in it.
but it's for people that, yeah, they just want to open a few packs. Now, the downside is they say it's not pay to win. Okay. And I read like two sentences and I disagree because they're like, you can't buy packs directly, but this is what all these like money grabs do is they're like, there is a stamina timer that you can't get past unless you either wait or you buy this thing. And it's
Mm.
like, that's the pay to win part. And it's so, if you and I are playing the same amount of time, but you're able to progress farther, I think that's just and I'm not trying to be nasty. I know that term is can be an aggro term to some listeners, but I'm not trying to be mad at it. I'm cool with Pokemon. I'll never really hate them, no matter what weird changes they make. But I just can't get excited about competitive play if I know that, somebody else is just buying packs. But I think it's aimed at casuals, so I think it's kind of cool for them. I mean, and it might refresh people into it. They might play and collect some cool animated cards, and you know, then they'll be like, you know what, maybe I will buy this $5 Surging Spark pack, and then maybe they'll pull that $400 Pikachu and just be like, I'm in now. I will only catch them all for the rest of my.
Yeah, no more magic. Put it down. Grab the Pokemon. No, it's a
Well,
fun.
what do you got going on, Kevin? What's new in your trading card life?
So what's happened since the last time we spoke is I grabbed some packs from my local store and I sat a friend down and we ended up doing a little draft round where you just take a couple play booster packs. Last podcast I called them decks for some reason at the end of the podcast, so forgive me there. But we just took 3 packs each. We spread them out on the table, so we had 6, and then we kind of said, all right, I'm going to pick one, you pick one. All right, that's pack number 1 for each of us. Then we did it again for pack number 2 and pack number 3. And then we did as you would with a draft tournament or draft round where we just ripped the pack open, looked through all the cards, said, all right, this is a good card. I'm going to try to build a deck off of this, and then began passing the packs back and forth until there were no cards left. Did that with pack 2, they did that with pack 3, and then put together 2 decks. Well, this was really neat. These cards were all going to be a part of my collection, so I had no idea what a lot of the cards that my friend had pulled were until we were playing. I saw them obviously in the very beginning, but that first card that they took, like I didn't see that, and then I forgot pretty much the other ones that were pulled along the way. So, segueing from the last podcast, Unstoppable Slasher hits the battlefield from my friend, and I got so excited seeing that card in real life, knowing that this was going to be part of my collection after talking about it for like an hour the last time. So it was really neat to see that
So
in person.
I'll go over again. What does that card do? And then I have a follow up.
It's a pretty wild card because if it dies, it comes back to the battlefield. So the only way you can remove it from the game is exiling it, which there's really 2 ways you destroy a creature in like Magic. Either you kill it and it goes in the graveyard, the yard, and it sits there, unless you might pull it back out. But for the most part, it's going to be donezo. When it has an ability that brings it back to the battlefield, it's like you really can't kill it unless you permanently remove it from the game. So it has like a way of nerfing itself a little bit by it comes back with a couple like stun counters where every time you would untap it and let it, kind of resume intimidating your opponent, you just remove a
All right,
counter off of it.
what was it called again?
Unstoppable Slasher. But
Unstoppable Slasher. And I
yeah,
want one more thing. My follow up. I feel like this is crucial to me committing this to memory. What the heck does this thing look like?
like
Like, what is it like a man holding a sword? Is this like a demon with
So,
like a magical blade. Like,
okay, so it looks kind of like a young male human with gray hair, and one arm has a table saw blade. Like that is his hand, and then the other hand, his arm, it looked almost like a weird beast. I really couldn't figure out what exactly it was, but he seems like he's like threatening hell, like he's standing in hell, being obnoxious in hell. So I don't know, like maybe they're just trying to say, all right, he's unstoppable. He's got his arm as a slasher. This guy is just going to intimidate everybody, and if you can try to
I was,
remove him, he's going to come back.
I was literally gonna be like, and we know he's unstoppable.
Yeah, and it's really neat how Wizards of the Coast will build these like card ideas into like a really neat way. And they go from the artwork to the name to the abilities of the card to just the quote underneath, where all of it makes so much sense together. There's one from the same like recent set called Possessed Goat, and it's hilarious.
Nah.
It's so funny because it's a non-intimidating 1/1 goat. It's like 1 power, 1 toughness, just this boring creature. But then you could spend 3 mana, discard a card from your hand, and give it 3/1/1 counters. So now it all of a sudden becomes a 4/4 very intimidating creature early in the game. Or you could even, later in the game, it can still just be as intimidating. All you need to do is discard a card, which of course can be problematic, but if you have plenty of like land drops or, draw cards and stuff, you'll be able to get there quickly. So
Reminds me, I don't know Magic like that, but sorcery has like some that are, it's like a snake and it's worthless. Like it's not this big. It's literally like a little snake on the ground, but it has lethal damage, so you can use it to defend. I guess you can use it to attack. I'm a kind of a scrub. But okay, so had I told you? I know I nerded out that I bought this sorcery card because I got that sample card from Team Covenant from sorcery, and I was like drooling over it. Like I felt like I had a piece of the primordial soup of sorcery, and I decided I wanted to buy all the avatars, and there's 4 I don't have, but I got my last one in today. It was called like Spellcaster. It's like this wizard holding a scroll, and its ability is that it just says you start with 4 spell cards. And I don't even ever understand what these things mean, because like, does that mean I get to draw 3 spells? I mean, does it mean I get to draw 6 lands? Because you get to draw 3 and 3. I'm assuming you get to draw 3 lands and now 4 spells instead of 3. But it brought me to this dilemma, man, because the last 4 were from the Kickstarter and the pre-constructed decks. And I don't know that I can stop. Like, I want them all. So I'm doing that that healthy wage thing where I have now officially I've lost 60 pounds. So it's a third of my body weight. Yep, I'm pretty. I mean, it's been a rough road this last little stretch. But I think the 28th of this month, so in a few weeks, I'll end it and I'll get basically my own money. But I'll get $2,000, and I had plans to spend this on bills, but now.
These cards are looking awfully shiny.
Dude, it's like, if I buy the starter decks, I don't even know whether I would open them or not, but it would be $500. It would be a quarter of that. I've been losing weight for 2 years. So it's been 24 months. And I'm like, I might do it. And I don't know if I pull them out or not. I might open them, even though they would lose value, I think. I might open them because the whole goal was having them. I just want them all. I want every avatar, every playable piece. Even if the game like goes into oblivion, it's not successful, it disappears. Dude, it's like I'll have every character. We can do matches with all the cards I have.
Yeah.
And at that point I could eBay like big collections that people are liquidating and have like huge sets of this playable game. It would just be fun, I think, to like play.
Yeah, the way you were
But I don't know,
describing it last
man.
time, man, like was crazy when you're talking about how it's like 3D chess and there's so much more than
Yeah,
just attacking. The whole like
honestly,
concepts of moving
it
on your own lands and stuff is wild to me.
it makes it intimidating, I think, to people in a way, and this is an assumption. Maybe there's probably a lot of people that don't get that are just like they sit down, they learn a game, and they're beast. But I'm like intimidating having to learn new mechanics in Magic, and I feel the same way with sorcery. Like I just don't like getting to a point where I'm not really sure of the answer to how this card works.
Well,
And it's funny, my friends felt the opposite. Like they just felt like that's part of the fun. And I mean, how do you feel about that? Like, is I feel like now you're deep enough where you love learning all new stuff. Well, what about when you like first started?
yeah, I would say when my buddy first introduced me to the game, I was pretty much like making a mistake every turn. And I would just say like play with somebody that is a friend of yours who, in my case, was able to say, "We'll let that slide, but this is actually the ruling on the order of this like event. Like you can't just destroy my creature and move on without me having the chance to respond." Something like that, where it's like, okay, well, that makes sense now, but it didn't at the time, and uh I'm happy to just kind of break down standard Magic too, because it's to make it a lot more digestible. I mean, it really is just like a couple minutes to understand just what happens in gameplay,
Are
and then
you
of
saying
course,
you're about to teach standard right now? Is that what
yeah. I
you're
mean, I
saying?
could totally just go off on it. So they give you cards sometimes where in these packs it'll actually
So
like
wait,
give
wait,
you.
wait. Before we begin, and I'll interject because I think I know. Wait, do I know now? Hold on. Standard is you said it's like maybe like the last 3 years of releases are playable cards, and then anything they haven't included, they'll like periodically remove stuff. So you can, as a new player, you can kind of enter it without having to have this database of cards from whatever it is, like 1984, whatever, whenever they started coming out with these things,
Oh yeah,
94 maybe. I don't even know. But is that it, or is this? Am I off?
yeah. Standard is the one where okay, so there's like two formats that I really enjoy. It's Commander and then there's Standard, and there's a lot more formats, but those are really going to be the majority of what players are going to play. And then like a whole different other subgenres of those. But in any event, Standard is where you start with 60 cards in your deck, and you start with 20 life. Commander is where you start with 100 cards and 40 life. Now, in Commander, you have a card, a legendary creature. And what's cool is like any legendary creature you can use as your commander. All 99 other cards in your deck, you're only gonna have one of. You're not gonna have duplicates of one card. So every time you shuffle it, I mean, it's like a whole new order of just one of one cards in your deck. Standard, you can have up to 4 of the same exact card in your deck. So you could literally just have 15 different cards and have 4 of them to make 60. Well, of course, like lands, you're going to leave room for your lands. And then that's pretty much what the actual deck is built off of. So you're starting with that, and then as you go through the gameplay, you begin the sequence of events each turn until the game is over. And usually the quickest way to end the game is going to be to defeat the opponent and reduce their life down to 0. You can also win the game, like I was discussing last podcast, by saying like you can mill the other player so that they have no other cards to draw out of their library. And milling is pretty much just having a card taken from the library and put into your graveyard. So it's pretty much like out of your library, you can't pull it, but there are cards that you can play that are pulling them out of your graveyard and either into your hand or onto the battlefield. So the game is really well designed to whatever cards you're seeing, you can use for the most part. Like even if it's in your graveyard, you could still have a chance of playing it later in the game.
I think it's interesting. I mean, I noticed that you want to like teach and reach people this game, and I think that it just shows how like this game has touched you. Like you love this game.
Oh yeah. And like I will keep saying it probably forever, but it's like the the balance of it being like luck and skill is what's really cool. Cuz you're not ever going to have somebody who's just so much better. Like yeah, they could have amazing cards, but you could have such a good draw with your deck, even if you're playing. Say like somebody's playing with like a $3,000 deck, and you're playing with a deck that's maybe like worth $70 total. You could still
Yeah.
have an edge early in the game if you draw the right cards and perhaps win.
I didn't feel like Pokemon is like that anymore. I felt like
You have to compete with the
if
money.
yeah, and I mean maybe I'm wrong really to some certain extent, but I mean could you? Because what I'm thinking is, if you bought a starter deck in Pokemon, you cannot just go play somebody that has a stack. It's not even. It's not going to be a game. It's going to be over. It's a guaranteed W for the other person. Like, could you do that in Magic? Could I just start with like a starter deck and beat someone's custom deck in Magic?
You can. I just think that somebody's custom deck is going to have more outs. Like they're going to have more removal spells than like a deck, like a starter deck that's just trying to teach you like how certain colors for the most part like work well with each other. But it really, I mean, it depends on like the skill of the player too and all this other stuff. So you have to weigh everything on the table to see the outcome of that match. But yeah, I would say like you're not gonna be terribly like upset even if you're playing against somebody who has brought their own deck and you have a starter deck and you lose 3 times in a row. You might still be like, well, actually, like I could have won if I just did this one thing, on turn 5 or whatever it might be. Like you can look back when you finish a game and go, okay, I can see how I would have won now that I know what cards they played. You know what I'm saying? Does that make
Dude,
sense?
I'm like I wrote down. I picked up my phone and I put a note. Who knows? I'll probably push this off until like 2026. But I put a note that says Magic the Gathering Arena, and it says, Pokemon Pocket, so I can try these out again and get into like playing. I'm just so busy, man. I just wish I had time to like just be a kid and like collect. Like that's my main mission. I'm not worried about work or bills or like buying a house. I just want to be like, yeah, Kevin. Oh, I got that one Charizard today. Like, and it's completed my collection. And tomorrow I'm going up to the game store and I'm buying another thing of Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, I guess I like this stuff that much. Like, I could just eat it up, man.
Oh yeah. Today I was just scouring online Pokemon cards and like Rakdos and like several other creatures that are pretty much like they don't really do a whole lot. Just the artwork. I hadn't seen this stuff in like 20 plus years or whatever, however long it's been since they came out with like the fossil decks of Pokemon, the original set of Pokemon. So seeing some of these cards that I haven't looked at in ages, I was just like, wow, I had the same feeling as if I opened up the pack and pulled that card. Just seeing the artwork
Yeah.
and remembering the excitement that I got the first time my eyes laid on that card. I'm looking at it and going, okay, this is cool. And I didn't really play a whole lot of Pokemon in person, but absolutely I was trading cards left and right for years with my buddies and probably just giving away all my good cards for their, cheaper cards, but it didn't matter. It was fun just having this crazy assortment and growing that assortment for the years. And I still have that somewhere in a binder protected.
I'll give you $10 for it.
Okay, well, deal.
No, don't do that.
Yeah.
It's got to be worth more.
Oh yeah, but like so to put it in perspective, like Unstoppable Slasher that I love so much, this card right now today's market value is right around $3 to $5 or $6. So it's not like a whole lot of money, like the value of the card, but the value of it in a deck is like the exciting part that I enjoy out of it, knowing like, well, this is actually going to help your strategy. Because you asked me earlier what it does, and I only read a little bit of pretty much gave you like how it comes back to the battlefield. But its main Two abilities. One is Death Touch, and then two is whenever it deals combat damage to a player, they lose half their life rounded up. And that's the like new ability that is in a couple other cards that they've recently released that is super exciting because there's just one other card that pairs so well with that I mentioned last time, Bloodletter. I said it did something about like half your life last time. I was wrong. It deals twice as much damage during your turn. So if you have Unstoppable Slasher, the opponent loses half their life rounded up. Bloodletter would come in and now deal the exact same damage, which is should always be a game-winning like combo. Because if you have 19 life, you lose half rounded up, you're actually going to then be losing 10 life, and now it's going to deal 10 more.
What set is that thing in?
It's in Duskborn.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah.
Dude, I got a whole box. I'm looking. I can see it from where I'm seated.
Yeah. So then I took the cards I was playing with in person with my friend.
God, I want to rip it.
I put them in my library. I went back to that store. I was so excited because I had just bought like 6 or 7 like loose packs. So I immediately went back and I go, okay, I want a collector pack of Duskmorn and I want a collector pack of Bloomburrow, and I grabbed a couple other packs for a friend of mine whose birthday was recently. And sure enough, what do? They pulled a foil Unstoppable Slasher, which again, only worth $6, but they were so excited to have that card now part of their collection too. And then I was like, all right, I have to tell you, I just got the same card. So we're going to have to play each other with some black decks and see who can come out.
I can imagine, because like sorcery's the same way. Like people, so you have your avatar, right? I've collected all of them, but I just collected like the most basic. I just want the functional card, right?
Mm-hmm.
But imagine you have like your avatar and you're pulling cards and you just pull a holographic one. It's like it must feel so godly to pull that, and you're like, yes, it's going in my deck. It's kind of like bragging rights. I feel like it's an exclamation on the play. Like you're like, not only is this guy coming back, and you're not gonna be able to get rid of him, but look at how shiny he is.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about Commander, because like the opponent is going to be able to like observe and study and read your commander before you start the game. So they're going to really know, okay, what deck idea do you have? Because everything in a commander deck is tied back to that commander. So you have an idea, well, if this is their main card, everything else in their deck is going to play off of that main concept, that main idea with that commander. So it's cool because you get to actually see, okay, make a couple strategies. I don't know if like you'd be able to use your sideboard right away and dump some cards into your commander deck before you actually started once you know what they're playing with, but you'd be able to do that on like a second or third game if you play against them and try to do like best out of 3.
Yeah, I'll have to. Maybe at this game store I'll start playing in person. That seems kind of intimidating. Definitely, I guess I'll do the arena first and get the ropes.
Yep. That would be my advice.
I have a question. It's like loaded. This is a loaded question, by the way. Like this is I don't really have an answer. This is a real life problem I have.
Should I
Probably
sit down?
somebody listening. I would honestly have somebody that you love nearby, because this is a tough.
Okay.
Dude, what do I do with? I have like old era cards that are like slightly damaged or worn, and I have like years of the last like just packs I've ripped, and I've kept all the hollows, and like I don't know what's worth getting graded and what's not, or if I don't know what to do with all these cards, man. So I decided the bulk Pokemon, right? And I'm only addressing Pokemon because I can't fathom, like I'm just not with it enough on Magic or the other ones. Like that'll be a later adventure.
Mm-hmm.
But the Pokemon, I'm gonna paint the basic ones, and I enjoy that. So I'm just like, my excuse for having a billion cards is that it's an inventory that I can select from.
Nice.
So like that solves it in my brain. I'm like, yes, I need these billions of cards. But then it's like I have a binder that has all my full art Pokemon. It's got a Charizard collection, and it's got a Chi-Yu collection. And it's like Chi-Yu's like a newer fish. It was so new that I decided it was within grasp for me to collect all of them. So that's what I decided to do. And then I have a special box of like, just I put all sorts of cards I pull in. It's my like one collection. And but aside from those, dude, I've got these boxes of cool cards, and I'm like, I just don't know what to do. I don't really want to sell them for like a buck or anything. I just don't know, Kevin.
I wonder if
Like,
you could
what
do
are the ideas?
like you could do like a poster that has them all displayed, or I mean, I love your painting cards projects like that. That's so cool. I
But
wonder.
so the foil ones, it's like, if you paint over them and like it loses
Yeah,
its,
all the
you
value,
know,
the
yeah. And so
lust.
it's like,
You can't. Yeah. Now I wonder if you
yeah, you
could.
can't see the sparkle.
Would you still get the same like satisfaction and the party purchasing that card? Would they still enjoy it as much if you were to like sleeve it up and then paint the sleeve so that they still get the same idea, but at the end of the day, they could pull that card out of that sleeve if they wanted to just inspect and like look at the actual card, knowing that the card hasn't lost any integrity?
Possible. I mean, that's a good idea. What if I don't know if this is a thing, but I think it is. There's like watercolor that are like soft and maybe transparent. What if I could paint over it? It's like, okay, so Pokemon has these random kind of weird designs. Like the holofoil is a specific pattern or something, or it's all gold, or it's crystally, or what if I do my own version where I find some paint that's transparent, so it's still hollow, but I like spiff it up. I don't know what to
You're
do
spitballing, yeah.
because I'm partial. Part of me, like what I think deep down, what I want to do is save them all forever, and like 50 years from now, I'll get them graded. But I'm like, I think the problem with that is I wish I could grade cards myself so that I could just be like, okay, I'm going to keep the perfect gem mints and because they'll be valuable and I'll get them graded. And then it's like, well, why don't I just send them all off to get graded? And it's because, like, I mean, really, at the end of the day, I think I'm losing money if I do that. I don't know. It's still up in the air. It's a question. Like when I moved into my new place, I had space to like take all my cards out, and I was really happy. But these just sit. They're like a foot away from me. They're in this little cubby, and I know what they are. There's a stack of reverses. There's a stack and some hard sleeves. There's a stack of new stuff I've pulled. There's a stack of just rares that aren't holographic, and it's like they're just sitting here. I just feel so orderly with everything. Everything has a purpose, and it's like I'm not really sure what I'm doing with them.
Well, I think good advice would just be to hold on to them for now, right? And like not just sell them in bulk or try to
Not rushing them or anything.
Yeah, because you could always their value could increase over time, but more importantly, it's like what's the enjoyment you're going to be getting out of it? If you're really happy to paint them and you're like, okay, no, it's totally fine if I paint over a $5 card, not necessarily diminishing the value, I'm adding value to it because it's my own artwork, then that should be sweet. I mean, people would be all about it. I mean, I was when I stumbled upon your artwork and then wanted to buy one of those cards. That's just a really wild concept, and
Maybe
it
I'll
looks
redo
so
the.
nice in person.
I'm glad. Thank you for saying that. I had fun painting that one too. Uh, Maybe I will do. There was another Etsy item I had that was like I just put them in a frame, and that would make me feel better. And it's such a weird concept, but it's like I know the person that bought that would really appreciate it. Like they would really like it, or their kid would. You know what I mean? Like that's gonna be a thing that they own or they show their friends, and it's like maybe that's an avenue I can take too.
Yeah, you could like sleeve them, glue the sleeves onto the background, and then have anybody be able to pull out that card from the sleeve and replace it with another card if they want that card to be in their collection or if they just don't want it on the wall, rather than saying, okay, now that card itself has been destroyed by being put into this like artwork.
You know what I might do? Because I did, that's exactly what I did. That was one of the products. They were sleeved, they were glued down, and it was advertised as a custom frame. I mean, we're talking cheap parts for our listeners here. These are like Walmart frames, general glue stick from like the Dollar Tree. But I put, shiny card. One was a Lugia, but its value was very, very low. I mean, we're talking like $4. Lugia, Kevin, is like typically a very expensive. It's just a really sought after Pokemon for some reason. People love it. I mean, it was in one of the first movies. It's just iconic, I guess. People love the dang thing.
Does it
Um,
play off of like Zapdos and those other birds?
yeah, I mean that was the movie they had. It was like the those three birds. They went insane and they were like feuding. And Lugia comes up and battles them and like basically makes them calm through, I think, combat. It's been a while since I've seen it. It makes me want to watch it again. Um, but that maybe one of the reasons I didn't sell that again was because I really felt like the quality was too low. And what I was afraid of, that any normal use, like people that wanted to use it, like take a card out, put a card in, I felt like they would inevitably bend up the sleeve, so the sleeve is kind of damaged, and they would it would break basically. So now they have the cards, but the thing they bought is broken. Maybe I could just buy a stack of glue sticks, like really tiny, cheap glue sticks, and just include one with the purchase with like repair instructions. And it's just like, hey, if you mess this up, just a little, you know what I mean? It's like, so
Yeah.
that way they're not, and maybe some extra penny sleeves too. And like, the person that bought it loved it. Uh, but it's like I don't mind kind of giving like the card you bought. You see so much like you like out of that card, and like, but I see all the flaws. Like I was thinking earlier about buying a paper cutter. I don't know what it's called. Like the big metal
Oh
arm that
yeah.
you pull down
Yep.
and it gives it a straight edge, because I just cut that like construction paper by hand. I always think of it because I numbered those. I'm just like, no, that makes it cool because you can look back, and number 100 will be professional and upgraded, but number one is like, yeah, this man was gluing cardboard and cards together in his basement. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. I can accept it easier, but I just want to give a good product. There's something, I don't know. I get so frustrated in life when I go to Walmart and I buy a frame and I take it home and it breaks. I'm like, what? Like, what?
Mm.
Come on, man.
Yeah, you wouldn't
So
want to have
I
a
don't want
product.
to do that to others.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you got plenty of cards to come up with a whole bunch of different ideas and see what takes off. I mean, I love the painting cards idea, and although yeah, you are actually quote unquote destroying the card, I think you're making it look a lot cooler. And it is in fact that same original card, from whatever set it's coming from.
Yeah,
I'm all
I
about it.
enjoy the painting cars. I got some. I'm doing a Starmie next. I already painted the background black. And I'm gonna do. When I was a kid, yeah, we're going back in memory lane. I won an art contest, and the first submission I took, like, this was typical child, right? Like I took like 20 pieces of paper, and I basically recreated. I don't know if this was the inspiration or if it was just like something I got from video games in general, but I drew like a train for like the length of all 20 pages. And I just scribbled all this crap on the train. And I submitted it. And they sent it back and were like, we're sorry. This breaks the rules. It has to be on a single sheet of paper. And it made me mad. And so I did a different one. I drew a page of stars and planets. But I was like driven. I was like annoyed by my failure, and I was like mad that they rejected, and it was terrible too. And then I produced this really good like piece, and I won first place in the little art
Oh
thing.
wow.
And I think I won like $100 or $200, which back, I mean, we're talking like 1997 or something.
Jeez.
Like, I mean, maybe
You could buy a house with
1995
that.
or four. I know back then, right? And probably have enough left for the car, right? I mean, not really, but um, I was inspired by that memory. I guess it's Pokemon's always a little nostalgia for me, so like a little dose. And I'm gonna do a like Starmie that's part of like the solar system, like it is the star
Oh,
in
cool.
the sky. Um,
Well, just like you're like, I'm gonna buy all the avatars. You're giving me reasons to want to just keep. Every time you drop a new one, I'll be like, I think I gotta get this one.
Oh, dude, well, I'll make it my goal because I'm gonna like post some kind of casually, just like I am. But I think I might try to find like one of those paper cutters. Like, just start with little, very cheap improvements. But like, I hope one day to do an upgrade, and
Hmm.
I like hopefully it's good enough where you're just like, damn it, I have to have.
Yeah. I took the art cards that you'll get occasionally in Magic packs, like full art cards. They look really cool, but they're not really, I mean, other than collecting them just to have like every single one from a set, there's really not a whole lot of value you're going to get out of it or, use it for any reason other than just looking at it. So there were some really neat coasters that I had that allowed you to like stick a photo into them. So I ended up just taking these art cards and I cut them down to fit like the 2 inch by 2 inch window, and now they're at least being utilized as coasters. But it's cool because you really don't notice it as Magic the Gathering unless you look at it really, really carefully and then kind of have an idea of what Wizards of the Coast have done with all their art cards over the years, and maybe recognize, okay, this definitely looks like a card game. But it's just really cool.
Yeah,
Like they
I
they
think
do a
that's
phenomenal
really
job.
cool. But yeah, that sounds like that's neat. Where'd you get the custom coasters?
Gosh, just like a random store, like a craft store, and then I just thought I was sitting on them for a while before I realized what I was going to do with them, and then the idea came to mind, and I grabbed like 15 art cards and dwindled them down to 4 that I wanted to use, and then just cut them to the right dimensions and stuck them in there. And of course, yeah, I ruined the card. I didn't fold it. Folding it would ruin it too. But I was like, this is what I want with this card. This is how I'm going to appreciate this card, and otherwise it's just going to be sitting in a box, not even collecting dust, just like not even ever being looked at. So I wanted to, see it, use it.
Yeah, dude, I think that's a good. I did that on one of the Etsy things. I did 3 frames, and I did trainer cards. I did energies, and then I did one that was Pokemon. But I glued them. Like, those are low value. They're penny cards.
Yeah.
They're worthless. And I glued them, so I ruined the card. But I really felt like if that went in like a kid's room and they had like it's like a nice snapshot. Like, what is this game? Oh, here it is. You have Pokemon, you have energy, you have trainers.
Mm.
And I think transforming stuff like that is really. I think well, I'll speak for myself. I think I'm like really like level one when it comes to gluing cards onto a piece of construction paper and then putting it in a frame. But if you take it to the next level, like people, I saw one chick on, I don't know what platform, she's probably on all of them, but what she had done was she had outlined in like a thick black line a Pokemon. Like, one I think was a Gengar. And then she colored and shaded it by cutting out the psychic energies, and she used the like glow around the energy to make the shading of the gang, but it was all just energy cards. And it was like, I mean, god, dude, it looked phenomenal. Dude, I would, if I could do that, I would legit post it on Etsy for $200. And
Mm-hmm.
a matter of fact, I tried. I somewhere in this house is a coloring book, and I bought it. It was real cheap at Walmart, but I bought it so I could have a stencil to do the same thing. But when push came to shove, I got some X-Acto knives. I had like some glue. I had like a piece of paper I was going to start with. I just couldn't even fathom how to create that. Like, I was like, just from the start, I was like, well, my black line, hers are very, I don't know what she's using, but they're crisp and they are dark. Like, dark as the abyss. And it's like, using the construction paper would look too, you're not going to get like a $200 piece of art. You're going to get like okay, this is a cute thing. But,
Mm-hmm.
but even forgetting that, I was going to start cutting out the cards, and it's just like, I rarely tap out on like I can't really do this well, but I was just like, dude, this would take me months of trial and error, I feel like. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it would take 2 times and then I'd be like, oh, I got the hang of this. But it certainly felt, I was like, dude, I would rather paint a card. Like, that's what I've done. That's where I'm at. And I liked it and enjoyed it. And I was just like, this is, whoever this person is, like, kudos, man. They've got it. They got something
Nice.
special.
Well, I think it's a great idea. You should keep up with it because more and more you'll maybe find a different way of doing, the same like painting concept, but maybe you'll introduce like another artistic flair to it.
Well,
I would.
you had asked me something earlier, and I asked you to put a hold on it. You remember your question?
Yeah, so back to Pokemon when I'm just looking through these old cards and I'm having all this nostalgia, I'm just loving what I'm just rediscovering earlier in the day today. And then I just keep coming across Charizard and Charizard in this way, a different version of Charizard, and I'm like, okay, how many Charizards from like the original Charizard did they make? I mean, are they reprinting the card that just with different artwork, but it has the same abilities, or are they tweaking like the abilities of Charizard every time they re-release him? Like, I was gonna ask you this because I'm really curious because I'm like, well, if I wanted to just get a Charizard, like, is there one that's like newer that everybody has that's just not really as sweet as these older ones, which again are high value, but those are the ones I remember. The one in particular,
Yes.
the original.
So, Pokemon isn't like Magic where you have this really old, useful card that creates this loophole. Like, it just has this crazy power creep where, if you played with an original deck and you picked a starter deck off the shelf of the new cards, like, the old deck's gonna lose. So, the value in the old Charizards are just the iconicness, the age, the collectability, and they do repeat. I mean, they had base set 2, which was just the exact same cards with a 2 on it. But in
Hmm.
and they've had, I think, one that was called Legends or Collections, or I think it was called Legends. And it was basically, again, base set Pokemon again, so the same exact base set Charizard. But for the most part, I think they keep making those cards because they're iconic. Um, you know, People old and young are happy to get a Charizard.
Yeah.
Like, it's the cool card. It's just, everybody knows what a Charizard is. And the new cards, I'm sure, when you have a Charizard in a set, I'm sure a lot of them do have play value because they're going to be, big, strong, full evolution. And I couldn't tell you the nuances of that, but I am sure that they do. You're not going to get a Charizard and it's just going to be garbage for the most part. But nowadays, man, they've got, I think, a lot of the highest collectible cards in Pokemon, and it's all of them, but including Charizard, are the full art cards. So, and they're like unique artwork done by an artist for that set in maybe a theme or the artist's personal theme or their take. I don't know if we talked about this last podcast, but the 151, they also, I mean, that was specific to the old nostalgic set, base set, or the original one, Gen 1 is a better way to put it, I guess.
Hmm.
And they did a card, and it was, I don't really love it that much. It was like, I'll probably get slaughtered by comments from that, but it was like a Charizard flipping around a moon in the sky, but it was very zoomed out, and Charizard was just kind of like this low detail character, and it's like, yeah, it looked good overall, and it was super sought after because it's Charizard, but it's like, I would rather have something, I don't know, cute or unique. Even like the promos we talked about, the Poncho Pikachus. Um, there was an art. I might do one of these sometime. There's an art contest that I don't know. Maybe I might have to be Japanese. I don't know if they do them in America. I would hope they would do them in both, but that's not always the case. But there was like somebody won. There was like for alligator that was done in this really like I don't know what the art design like the style is called, but it was basically there was no black outlines and it was like these shapes placed on top of each other that made made everything. It was
Wow.
kind of very blocky.
Kind of
It
like a
looked
mosaic
beautiful.
type of thing.
Maybe. I don't know. I'd have to look. I'd have to. I don't know. I'm too ignorant on art. But the one of the
Nice.
winners was just a Pikachu that was like a cat or a dog scratching its ear, and that won. And it's kind of like I would rather have a Charizard sitting and scratching its ear. I just think like that would tickle my fancy a little bit more. But I think to answer, it's just an iconic Pokemon, and it is probably has value within the set. You know, basically all the cards that are top tier are supposed to have some sort of value in the battling. You know, if you pull
Mm.
that, you're going to want to add it to your deck. But I think most of it is just the art, man. People, they just want a Charizard and they're like, that one looks cool. And there's like Lugia is a popular one. Umbreon, there was something called, they literally nickname them. There was a Umbreon that was so rare, it was hard to pull, and it just looked epic. And they coined it the Moonbreon because there's like it was a silhouette in front of like a moon, and it's a really cool looking card, but it is basically just highly demanded. So its price goes up. You know what I mean? It's no more
Yeah.
rare to pull than the other, cards of that set. I did that in one of my videos I recorded. It was a Bulbasaur, and I had pulled something that was either more rare or equal rarity. But I knew as soon as I pulled it, I was like, I'm not into this. I don't think this is valuable. And it's like, why? How could I know that? Right? I don't know these prices by heart. I don't even look at them. But then I pulled the Bulbasaur, and I knew. I'm like, everybody wants this. So that's why it's like a high price card.
Yeah.
Charizard, it's just too iconic. And we're probably all the old people are fighting over them.
Yeah. I mean, because it just like literally seeing some of these cards, like I was saying earlier, like, gosh, there was like an onslaught of them just back to back. I was like, oh my gosh, like I have not seen this card since like the day I remember first seeing this artwork, this card, looking at the name, studying the card. And again, I really wish that I played Pokemon like I played Magic now, because all it was for me was collecting and really just having this impression of like the name and the creature and whatever it might have done, and Meow and all these other ones. Cat, what's the guy with a K? Like, not Kazam.
Abracadabra and Alakazam.
There you go.
I think you're talking about Kadabra.
Yeah, Kadabra. There you go. Yeah, I had like one of those, and I remember doing some trade. Like, it always went back to like, okay, did I get ripped off on this trade or not? Probably, but hey, I mean, I had so much fun just whipping them out and being able to say, okay, well, you won't trade me that card for maybe these two, but what if I throw in this one? Okay, now will you trade? And be like, okay, great. And now, boom, you got a whole new collection over a week. Good times. Always on the school bus,
Yeah, man,
stuff.
you make me want to get, like, it makes me want to get more involved. Maybe I will download that, and I don't mean to be negative, but I am. I'm like, that stupid new Pokemon game. Because I'm like, I don't really get it, but
you got to give it a
maybe,
shot before you bash it.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're right, and I'm going to. I just, maybe that's something that's missing.
Maybe
like,
our listeners are
with
going to
Magic and Pokemon. Like, I need to play it and trade people and Hey, did you open your card pack?
Oh, the one that you gave me?
Yeah.
No, it's like proudly displayed right now. I don't know what to do with it. So yeah, I got one of your awesome paintings, and then included was a really neat foil card, already sleeved and everything. It was beautiful. And then along with that was a unopened pack of Pokemon, and it was like, join me with the one collection and open up a pack yourself. And I was like, this is such a cool thing, man. I just want to keep this forever, like unopened, and hopefully there is something hidden in there.
You do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, I had meant to ask you, and I was like, dang, he must have pulled that, and it had just garbage in it.
No,
I opened 2 packs. I opened one myself and gave one to my coworker because she kept asking. She's like, I really want to rip cards. She kept bringing it up, and I finally brought her one. And I literally got trash, and she wasn't super excited about it. I wouldn't have been either, to be honest. But it was like a full art trainer card. But I knew just because it was full art how rare it was. I was like, dude, I looked it up. I was like, that's a $7 card. And she's like, oh, okay, cool. But like in my head, I'm like, dude, that's like, it's a rare occasion. It's hard to get those. But it's just because, when you, especially if you watch all the YouTube videos and it's like, they're just ripping stuff left and right. And like YouTube pushes the most exciting stuff. So, you don't know how crazy that is. and it's not that crazy, but it like every time it should be notable. And it's funny to see like someone that doesn't rip packs all the time. They're like, okay, because they didn't have a personal connection to it. They were
Right.
like, well, that's not one I really like. But it's like they just throw it down, and it's like, dude, like how many?
He
There's
just
someone
missed,
out there that might have been ripping box after box. Like some of the YouTubers did like they're trying to complete the whole set challenge stuff,
marathon?
and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, and they like just can't get one stupid card, and I'm like, that could be it right there.
And it's the full art one too. You're like, gosh.
Yeah. Well, Japan is into the trainers a lot, and I'm not. I mean, I want them. Some of them are really cool. There's one I took a picture of. I think it's a Pokemon card though, but it has the trainer in the background. But just the solid, like it's just a trainer on like a solid background. I'm just like, okay, I don't know. I mean, I think I have to watch the show and be into it.
Yeah.
Like you would like the character, and then you're like, oh my god, I really like this one. And so like knowing nothing about them, it's just a random drawn person every time. I'm like, okay, another one of whoever.
I will
I
say
don't.
when it comes to Magic and you pull a full art card, it is pretty fun because if you're big into playing online like I am, or on Arena, you've seen like the standard art for that card like every time you're playing with it. You can like some cases upgrade the art to be the full art, where they might like give a promotion and do it for you. But for the most part, you're going to be looking at like the regular printed cards. So when you stumble upon this full art card in real life, it's exciting because it's absolutely like you might not have ever come across that before. So you look at it, you go, oh wow, like even with Unstoppable Slasher, I looked up the full art card and it's totally different from the regular one. I mean, it's still same concept with there's a guy with a saw as one hand and then like a crazy claw or whatever wild arm is the other, but it looks just
Now,
beyond different than
is it a
the original.
completely new artwork, or is it an expansion of what the card shows just without the text, or is it a whole new drawn thing?
It's like an entirely different, all new art. Like he's in a whole different stance. He looks a little bit different, and you're looking at him from a whole new perspective.
That's
just with
cool.
that one
I
card.
could imagine.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
like
some of them are
pull
cool.
your favorite, like your unstoppable swordsman guy,
Yeah.
like or unstoppable slasher. Was that him? I'm
Yep.
picturing him now,
Yeah,
and
Yeah,
you'd
and
be
the-
like, "Wow, I got him."
Yep.
Sweet.
and especially it's neat when you're like so used to seeing the one, and all of a sudden you stumble upon a different version of it. So seeing the full art card foil makes it that much better because then you're like, okay, I really don't want to even put my fingerprints on this. Hold it on the sides, get it sleeved up immediately, and then it might find itself into a deck. Yeah. But I mean, I still want to segue back into just the rules of standard, just to knock it out, get it over with. Just so anybody who had an idea of like, saying I might play Magic, but I'm not too sure, how it just seems a little bit too difficult, maybe too overwhelming. But it comes down to the deck itself, right? So we already kind of gone over with standard. There's 60 cards. You start with 20 life. Once you have 0 life, you lose. And how do you lose life? It's during combat, during a turn, where the opponent will be then attacking you. So they're going to use creatures. They might have other abilities on the battlefield that are going to be dealing you damage, and then that damage will resolve. So if you have nothing to block it, or if you just choose not to block it, then you will accept the damage, and then you'll have like a life counter or a dice or something that has 20 on it, and then just reduce it by however much life you're losing. So there's 5 steps in a turn. It's the beginning of your turn, then there's a main phase, then it goes to combat, then there's another main phase called the second main phase, and then the end of your turn, which is the end step. So you're like, wait, why is the beginning and the end of your turn considered part of the turn? Because there's things that happen in those steps. So with the beginning of your turn, you untap your cards. So anything that you may have used in the previous turn that would have caused you to tap it, you just, like at a right angle, you literally just turn that card so it's facing up and down again. That's the untap step, and then you draw a card. So that's the beginning of your turn. You do that every single time it's your turn. You untap your cards, and then you draw a card. Then with the main phase, you would play a land. You can only play one land per turn unless there's a card that you have that tells you otherwise. And that's pretty much how it is with everything in the game. Like there could be an ability that you have of a card that's on the battlefield that allows you to do something different than what you would normally do. But with the main phase, you play that land and then you're able to cast creatures and other spells until you're ready to move to combat. Once you move to combat, now that's the part where you're really focused on attacking the other player and seeing if they have any creatures, if they're going to block. There might be abilities that you have in your hand that you're going to use to stack on top of your creature's power so that they can really crush the opponent, whether it be more damage to the opponent or if the opponent's blocking with a creature, now you can guarantee that the creature that they're blocking with is going to get destroyed. So once you declare your attackers during the combat step, now your opponent will declare their blockers. So there's always like a action or reaction. So this is what you choose, your attackers. Now they're going to be choosing their blockers. And then at that point, combat damage is dealt. So now your creatures are going to pretty much resolve whatever damage was going to go to either the creatures or to you, the player. And then lose any life or not lose any life and let your creatures die. If they die, they usually go into the yard. And then after combat, you go to the second main phase where once again, if you didn't play a land earlier, you'd now be able to play a land. Some people like to, bluff that they have a whole bunch of stuff in their hand, but at the end of the day, they might only have like 4 lands. So rather than playing a land at the beginning of their turn and doing nothing else the rest of their turn, they might wait until the second main phase before they play a land and fool the other player into thinking like they're coming up with this wild idea in their hand, from whatever cards they have, when in fact they might have absolutely nothing. So then from there, you would potentially play another land, cast other creatures or other spells, and then after that second main phase is over, then it's your end step. So at this point, your creatures are going to heal, so any damage that was dealt to them during combat or just during non-combat, a player might have a card that's like deal 2 damage to anything, and you could just say, all right, I'm going to have it be dealt to my opponent's creature who had 3 life, 3 toughness. So now it would only have 1 toughness, and if it were to block something, it would only need to take 1 damage to kill it. That player might not want to block with anything and try to keep it alive. So that would be an example of it just pretty much lasting through combat, and then at the end of the turn, that creature is going to heal, come back right back to full life for the next turn, and then you would pass the turn to the opponent. With Commander, it's fun because you can like play with multiple people. Standard, usually you're just playing against one opponent, but you can play either win 1 game and it's over, or you could play like best out of 3. So there's different variations with every format that you can play. But that's essentially like what happens during a turn. Those 5 steps: the beginning phase, the main phase, combat, another main phase, and then the end step. So I mean, there's not a whole lot. I mean, now when I say you can cast creatures and you can cast spells, there's a lot of different variations with spells, because creature is a card type, such as sorcery is another card type, and that's a spell. Instant is another card type, and that's a spell. And like, as I said, the first podcast, most importantly, instant, it's not the most important card. It's just one that can disrupt play the most, because out of nowhere, somebody can play an instant and really start to, tweak the way that game is going to end. There's enchantments, there's artifacts, there's like newer cards, enchantment sagas, battles, all sorts of now more, like they've added a lot more variety to these different card types, which is fun because it just opens up new concepts to play in the game and taking strategies that were popular, maybe 10, 20 years ago. And it's like a new way of playing with that same idea under different rules and different, mechanics.
Dude, I feel like you should go to like a local store and like do like teach and plays or some shit. Like I like, dude, like, would you? I feel like you would enjoy that. I wonder if you could get paid for it.
Yeah, I mean, it would be fun. I wouldn't
Is
even
that
need
a
to get
thing?
paid. Maybe to like introduce new people to the game, and hopefully listeners that haven't thought much about these trading card games might take it up. I mean, again, I would just say, just start with the Arena app is like the easiest way to understand the game. From there, you could always translate that into like playing in real life and buying packs and everything else. But it's just fun to come up with an idea, whether this be in real life or just like through the app, and see that idea like all the way through. Like say, okay, like this one particular card that I've stumbled across in a video that I saw or, heard about, like me talking about Unstoppable Slasher enough times. Hopefully it, the card sells out and it becomes a hit. I don't know. But like that one card you could build an entire strategy off of. And that's with all the cards in Magic. So there's no wrong way of playing the game as long as you just say, okay, I'm going to commit to something and see how it plays out, play against somebody and see if I can win. That's the best way to just, trying your luck and seeing what happens. There's too much fun to not play. There's too much fun to be had. I mean, I didn't really know how much I enjoy it in the very beginning. And it was just like, what was wild to me is when the first night I played, we would play a game. I would keep the same deck. I'd shuffle it. And then the very next game we'd play would be totally, totally different. The same 60 cards in the deck would play in a totally different way. And then you would shuffle again and do it again. And it's the same thing. And it was like, wow, this is crazy. It's not like a poker game or Texas Hold'em where you're pretty much like you're looking for royal flush. You're looking for flush. You'll see doubles all the time, like two pair consistently. But with Magic, it's like there's so many variations, especially if you have like 60 individual cards. And again, excluding lands, which in like a 60 card deck, you're probably looking at like 24 lands or something around there. So you're really dealing with like 36 cards that you're playing with. The variations that you can come up with 36 different cards is wild. So it's just sweet to be able to like have that express itself differently every time you play with the same exact deck. 10 times over, you're going to see a different result every time. I think that's what hooked me and got me like stuck in it.
How many people are you playing Magic with?
Gosh. So, I mean, I've got a couple close friends that play, but a lot of it is just with these ranked games online. And I don't like, remember the player's name that I'm playing and search for them and try to add them. I just play as casually and as randomly as I can. It's just fun because, most of the time you're going to be playing with somebody you've never played with. And seeing, a deck idea that you may have seen something similar with, or maybe it doesn't represent itself until you are actually playing against this player who has the perfect cards in the perfect order and just lay them out one by one and, captivates you. But yeah, it's really just a bunch of random play. And it's just coming up with these different deck ideas. Building decks is so much fun. You were talking about how you were, open to the idea of getting back into that. And that's what you remembered from Pokemon a long time ago. That's the other fun thing about this. Like, you have to devise your strategy, commit to it, and then see how it plays and tweak it along the way, knowing that maybe the first go around or the 10th time, 20th time you've tweaked your deck, maybe it still is not the way you want it to be. And then all of a sudden a new set gets released, Unstoppable Slasher gets thrown into the mix. Now everybody's like, let me throw at least one of these into a skull deck that I have, a black deck that's going to incorporate destroying the other opponent at all costs.
Well, I gotta tell you, I would never even consider playing Magic if you had not told me that they like limit how many cards. Because I'm like, I might as well do sorcery, right? Like I already play sorcery, but it's like I might as well do anything other than Magic because I'll never catch up. So having a format that makes me feel like I'm not 20 years behind is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes it fun. I mean...
Yeah, because otherwise it's like... I mean, shoot, even you're so knowledgeable now. It's like... It just makes you feel, like it's just...
like inferior or something.
Yeah, really. It's just like, why even bother? Because these dudes are killing it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to play... I don't know which I'll end up playing. But either Arena or the new Pokemon one. Or, honestly, Magic has more of an appeal. Knowing that I can relate to it with you a little bit.
Yeah.
And I still am having trouble. I like the idea of the Pokemon Pocket because I really love full art cards. So having like a 3D interactable card is cool. I'm having trouble disconnecting from having a card in real life. You know what I mean? It's like, They need to make them. They need to make them NFTs. I would be more into it. That you could like actually sell and have ownership of. Because like
Yeah, the
right now,
digital.
yeah, and they do have trading, and so they own it all. But I mean, that's still without money value. They're owning it on the app is just as good as anything else. Like it doesn't need to be that complicated. But I don't know. I have a feeling people are gonna kind of love it.
I would think so. I mean, if you like any like regular card game, like even just going back to poker, like you can have a lot of fun playing poker over the course of the night with some friends, as equal to playing Magic with friends. And just if you have that many people playing, I mean, of course you'd want to have a library. You'd want to have some boxes that you popped open and put together like an assortment of cards, or just buying pre-made decks. One of the ways I also got started was a buddy of mine has, I think it's like 8 different decks that are pre-made. He bought it as a set, like this is what you buy, and you don't want to shuffle the cards. Like you don't want to take one deck and mix it with another one. They're all separate because they have their exact strategies and they're all somewhat even. So it's a really neat way of being able to, like, you could have 8 people play and have like 4 duels, and then then the winners of those duels you'd play best out of 3, and then get to a semifinal and then a final and see who would win that, and then do it all over again. There's like so many different ways you could take the game and make it fit like with your friend group, where there's not like a regimented way. If you don't, if you play this way, you're going to be wrong. No, there's just play the way that you would want to play to have fun with it. And you don't need the expensive cards to just have as much fun. I mean, I would be happy playing with like a basic beginner deck. I mean, you really wouldn't call it beginner, because if it's got a strategy involved, it could be better than somebody's deck that they've made. At the end of the day, I mean, it just
Oh,
boils down to what cards that they're playing in that deck.
this is something I wanted to ask you. So I'm over here imagining playing Arena with you. I wanted to know, like, I guess you would just keep track of it in real life. I want to kind of challenge you to Magic Arena. Obviously we can play for fun all the time, but like I want to basically make it so we can only use cards that we own. Is there a way to
Easy,
do that?
yeah. Especially with you having bought so many packs of Duskborn, because you bought a box, which, if I'm not mistaken, has 36 packs in it. Now you only need like 3 packs to build a 40 card deck, which would be what you're playing when you're playing draft. To get to 60 cards for standard is not that many more cards. So with you having 36 packs to open up and have a collection just with Duskmorn, that would be plenty to come up with a pretty strong deck idea, because everything is going to be synergizing with itself because it's all from the same set. Now,
Wait, when's the next set coming?
the next one's coming out November 15th. It's called Foundations, and they're also at the same time releasing a new rule change, which I saved so that we could at least mention it. And I can literally just break this down into like 30 seconds here. Basically,
Yeah, go for it. I'm
yeah.
interested in this.
All right, so I'm gonna read it verbatim off of the Wizards of the Coast's website, and then we can pretty much talk about it. But it's during the combat step, so the combat phase of anybody's turn, the ruling on blockers, and this is what it reads: instead of having to put multiple blockers that are all blocking the same creature into a specific order and then dealing damage to them in that order, players will now be able to simply assign combat damage among those creatures in whatever manner they choose. This assignment will happen in the combat damage step just before damage is dealt. There won't be time for any player to take actions between the time at which damage is assigned and the time where damage is dealt. And then it reads a little bit more into that ruling, but I'm curious because I think I understand. I think they've done a great job at breaking it down, and I do believe I understand that rule, but I almost want to hold off on saying anything definitive until I see that happen in Arena, and they might have to work out some kinks, and maybe the app won't be, there could be like one-off moments where the ruling isn't actually going to work through the app because there's not a judge deciding, so the app is just going to like go with whatever they've programmed it to run through. But I would expect after like the 20th of November, there'll be a lot more understanding of that ruling change and how it applies to the game. Because it seems to me like that you won't even be able to have time to throw an instant into the equation once the damage has been assigned from the offending, like the person on the offense who's dealing the damage, who's attacking. That makes it wild and fun because like it could add a lot more like aggro ways of playing where people are going to be heavy on attacking, knowing that there won't be as much of a reaction off of how they attack and how they assign their damage. So more to come with that, but that was one thing that caught my eye recently where it really wasn't in the public news until just recently. They definitively said this is in fact a rule change that's going to go into effect with the release of the next set. So that'll be wild, and probably best that you're not in the competitive aspect of this game until something like as grandiose as that is rolled out and then all the kinks are worked out. Because I'm sure it's going to upset a lot of players who've been playing for like 20 plus years, but those who really know the game are probably going to make sense of it quickly. Those of us who are fairly new might take a little bit longer, but it might just make a lot of sense. And
I might wait, and because it'd be good timing anyway. Because I have a lot of bills to pay here in the next little stretch. I mean, I should get a little chunk in December, but January I should be a little more comfortable, and I might try to make like my first Magic the Gathering run and do it by buying several boxes, like maybe 2 boxes, and building a deck. And like I'm one of these people, I do that is because it's like I just enjoy ripping packs, but I don't want to just rip packs forever because of the that's fun for me. It's not like a move, but when I play, I'm probably just gonna buy the card off a TCG player, so I have it.
Yeah,
And then I'm gonna try to defeat you. I'm gonna build the deck and a strategy. I'll wait because it says while you were talking, I looked up like how many sets per year, and it says about 4, which I guess I could have just asked you. You probably know that. I don't know why I'm like pretending you're not right there. But I didn't want to interrupt you either. But I'll wait maybe until the first set of the year, and then that's what I'll go for. And in the meantime, I can learn maybe some basics. When Foundations comes out, will they change it for Arena too?
Oh yeah. Like that's how they're going to first probably grab the metadata. So they're going to be able to compile like all of the scenarios where this particular situation occurred, and then how was that ruled in the gameplay, which like you're not going to be involved in that. Like as a regular player, they're going to make sure that they're working out all the kinks. And I would imagine all their like software developers are going to be knowledgeable to prevent there being a whole bunch of like situations that need answering that the game might like default to resolving in one way when it could actually be the wrong way, like a judge would rule. A lot of lingo again, but like I would trust that they know what they're doing and they're going to be able to make it as smooth as possible. And I think a lot of players who would be playing in like person would take advantage of playing on Arena in that short amount of time after November 15th to better understand the rule like I want to understand it in gameplay. And like the app will walk you through the steps of that turn in those moments, so you're not going to be able to skip over anything that you might have overlooked, those sorts of things. So I think it's going to be helpful to really drill down what this change does to the game, and then from there like taking that and saying, okay, now I understand what happens. Now this is going to change up a couple ideas that I have been playing with over the years, which I expect like absolutely to happen. It's gonna disrupt a lot of strategies, but I think it's going to be for the better. If they're making a change, they're probably doing it for a very valid reason. And then with a lot more of these decks that they're releasing, those could probably represent like ways of playing that support like this rule change. Like this Foundations set they're releasing, I think there's a lot of like older cards that they're reprinting in it. So this is another pretty good one for people who want like pretty well powered cards that they released like 4 years ago that got faded out of standard. Now you'll have once again a chance to play with those same cards. Banishing of Light, I think, or something is one of them, where it just is like exile whatever you want, any card on the battlefield, pretty much. You can just remove from the game until your enchantment, Banishing of Light, disappears. So that's like a pretty strong card to have that can work like against your opponent's strategy. Like there's a lot of decks that you're going to be building that work only to your strategy, and you're like, my bet is that the opponent won't be able to stop me because I'm going to have so much going on. But there are other strategies where you're really focused as much as you are on your strategy as like trying to avoid the opponent from gaining like the full craftsmanship of their deck concept, their archetype that they've put together, if that makes sense.
Yes. I'm like,
Okay.
I'm just fantasizing about Magic right now.
Yeah. Well, maybe like next time we do the podcast, we gotta have you at least versed a little bit in Arena. That way you can share like what caught you right in the beginning, and then hopefully what catches you and keeps you involved.
Yeah, I got a whole hobby list. I had started the tutorial and I never finished it. I did like 4 of them. There was something that confused me, but I couldn't even tell you exactly what it was. And I'm sure it was because I wasn't paying attention. There's some this is way off topic, but it's hilarious. I'm in the Nissan. I'm trying to play Arena. I'm just chilling. I think I had it muted, so there's no sound or nothing. And this lady, she has like a Bluetooth on, and I guess she forgot to sync it, and she's got her phone on like full volume, and all of a sudden it like rings and it just says, "Ring, asshole is calling," and she was like so embarrassed. It was like her significant other she had in her phone as asshole. I was just like, bro, like everybody, we all had like a moment of silence for a few seconds, and then that one person just busted out laughing, and we all were like, it is hilarious.
That's great.
But it was something to do with like there was a bunch of times I couldn't understand how like the math wasn't mathing. I didn't know if monsters were like if they were couldn't heal. Like in sorcery, when you battle, when the turn switches, the health goes back. So I couldn't tell if that was happening in Magic or not, or if like you carry your damage throughout all your turns for like the regular minions.
No, like when I was talking about the way the steps are in a turn earlier, in the end step, creatures heal. So any damage that was dealt to them, if they're still alive, they'll go right back to
so
full.
There must have been an effect in play or something, because it was just not like I would think that I was coming out on top and it would be like a draw, and I was like, what happened? What just happened that guy's dead now? And the game was like, great job. And I'm like, wait a second. Like, he's dead. Well, how'd he die? I thought he had more power than that. I don't know.
Oh,
I'll just play a little and I'll get my legs.
Yeah, this time, like, don't do it when you're like getting an oil change. Like, have the full focus, because I think you'll really grasp the concepts of the game if you go through those like tutorial steps where they have you like walking through. Like, they'll have a long-winded way of doing something so that it ingrains in your mind like how to go through all of those little like minute steps in one step of the turn. So
hopefully
that it
lets me replay it.
It will.
That would be nice.
Yeah, I think I could even just like reset it and then you just start those tutorials all over again. And then there's like different decks you can play with. They'll have like many of the different color combinations. And then you just like, just play until you find something that you're like, okay, I enjoy playing the game like this way. This one where there's a lot of as many creatures as there are spells.
Do you know
Because
what's
sometimes
wild,
you're only
man?
just playing with creatures. You're not playing with any spells.
I didn't realize, and I guess I used to more because we were like the gamers. Well, again, we played Diablo 2. We were like too deep. You had like what was 115 accounts full of nothing but Shakos, and it was like
Yeah.
it was a time. But I feel like as we got older, even the casual players became gamers. Like everybody has now played some sort of game on their phone. I just feel like everybody's a gamer. But I was texting one of my coworkers about cards, and I started sending pictures because they were like, "Oh, you have cards?" And I was like, "Do I have cards?" I just started like
Hmm?
like binders and boxes and like, and they were like, oh my god, and like it took me for a second because I honestly I don't even feel like it's that bad, and it made me realize that this now is still kind of niche. Like this is nerd. Like people are like, oh, you collect cards, and that used to be the like gaming. Like, oh, you play a computer game, and now it's normal. Like people
Mm-hmm.
pick out their phone, they're like Pokemon Go, yay! It's mainstream, and I feel like this stuff is still not that much, and it's weird to me because I'm so deep. I just this is life. Like I don't know.
Well, maybe you'll turn around and then that Pokemon Pocket TCG app that you were talking about, maybe that might become like a different way of playing Pokemon where you're getting more enjoyment out of it. Um, as opposed to like trying to build a deck, bring it to a place. I mean, that's the same thing with Magic. It's so easy to start and just pick up Arena versus taking out packs, putting together a deck idea, and then bringing that to, like a local shop and being intimidated by playing against somebody who could be like years ahead of you with skill level. And,
It's not even. It's for me. It's like I mean, I'm not. I would enjoy once I get going. I would enjoy just getting wrecked again and again, as long as I felt like it was in some way fair. Like there's some certain combinations that I feel like I would just submit to. Like you know what I mean? Like okay, I'm not beating that. Like fair, but for the most part, I think I would look at it like, okay, how am I going to improve my deck and come back? But it's like it's just who, what do I just go up there randomly and I'm like, is there a Magic the Gathering person here? And like, I don't know.
you start on the app, have fun with it,
Yeah,
and
no,
then go
I'm
from there. I mean,
definitely
like,
gonna start
yeah,
on the app.
yeah. I think we should play, even if it's just between the next podcast now, just to get a feel for, just that way I could help kind of walk through the steps of it, but also that tutorial will at least break down things more than I did earlier, and then from here you could say, okay, what would be, not even advice, just like what is your strategy in this type of part of the game or whatever, and why, and I'd be able to share like, well, these are different scenarios that I've come across, and this is why I would favor this over this, for example. And then like you were talking about last podcast with the otters, like that is the crazy way of that shows like when you understand the game, like all it takes sometimes is 3 cards, one that was released 3 years ago, one that was released a year ago, and then the one out of the brand new set, and you put those 3 cards back to back on the battlefield, and it's the triggering abilities that gets everything so crazy. It's when something can, like a domino, but rather than the dominoes falling up until the end domino, it's like the cards in your hand and your library that you're pulling and whatever else is part of your strategy, it's like you can create a domino effect where the dominoes just don't stop falling until you tell them to stop falling. You're like, all right, now I will finally stop triggering all these abilities, and I'm now going to push the attack and force the opponent into submission, pretty much. Like with those otters, when I said 160 of them were attacking me, like I was not exaggerating. That was just the most beautiful way that this person's strategy came out in that moment. And I just couldn't be more happy for them, realizing that this is actually possible, and it doesn't take a whole lot. Just you have to be creative, and I'm sure there's like ways of looking online, many different strategies, and even probably like preemptively like having a strategy ready to go with the release of a new set, because you can look up a lot of the cards that are in that set. But it just takes pulling packs, pulling cards and then putting together decks to actually, really fall in love the way I have, at least.
Well, I hope to adapt some of that love and learn to love it as well. I think I will. I
And I
can
think I
tell
shy.
you're excited. You want
Yeah.
me to learn it.
Yeah. And I think I shy away from Pokemon because I'm so into Magic. And, I've played, oh my gosh, what is it, Yu-Gi-Oh? I think I've played that one in person. It was a lot of fun. But when you don't have
Well,
people to
shoot.
play and there's no really like apps that I've discovered in playing these
Yeah,
other ones,
I don't
it's
really
easy to
want.
forget
I
about
don't
them.
have a desire to play Pokemon. I tried it out, but I would like to play Sorcery, and I think maybe try some Yu-Gi-Oh. And I have One Piece over there. There's Dragon Ball. I don't really feel like playing all of that, but I want to play some stuff. I really like Sorcery. Magic sounds great, but for Pokemon, man, I'm not opposed to playing it either. I have like some decks, I think, but it's like I really enjoy like just having like a binder of cards. Like when my friends came over and they didn't like them, they were like, "What? These don't look like Pokemon to me." They were the full art cards, but it's because they don't. I'm telling you, you pull a box of cards, you don't get a single full art, and it's like, yeah, the next time you do, you're gonna appreciate it. Like, and
You're
I
gonna
think there's
remember it, yeah.
yeah, I think they force you get a certain amount of each of that in a box or whatever, but it's like I liked still having it to like be like, look at these,
Yeah.
like look,
This
just
is the
flip through
fit.
them.
Yeah, this is the real card. Like that. Like that's why I love playing
And
in real life with Magic as much as I do online, because when you're playing with your own collection, there's something just so freaking sweet about just.
do you have any like so? Because I don't play Pokemon competitively, so it's like I have a binder that you open and flip through and look at. It's like, do you have that for Magic?
Bro, I have. I
Okay.
think I just got to my third binder and it's totally full, so now I have to go to the fourth one. And this third one filled up like so fast. And mind you, I have 10. I have one commander deck. I need to make a commander deck, but I have like a pre-made commander deck so I can play with other people. And then I have 10 standard decks that I've made on my own that I have, and it's in their special box. And it's called like a draft cube. That's the term where you can like you have your own library and your own like collection of decks that you've built, and that you can bring somewhere and have like people that know the game who could play. They would just play with your decks, and you could just pin them against each other and see what comes out of them. But I've designed all the strategies with each of them, and it's all just based off of what cards I have pulled. Now there was one deck that I like came up with the idea online, and then ended up I love the idea so much. It was life gaining deck. It's just like right from turn one you're already gaining life, and if your opponent thought they were gonna be able to defeat you with 20 life, they're totally wrong, because by like turn 5 you could have like 40 life pretty quickly. You can just amass so much life that now they're going to have to just deal so much damage that they're probably not going to beat you. And I ended up buying all these cards off TCG just because I wanted to create that strategy, and it was relatively cheap. There wasn't a whole lot of expensive cards, and mind you, it's only 60 cards in total with a whole bunch of lands. So fun ideas off that. But these draft cubes are fun, but you
I'll
can
definitely,
just
when I rip this dust more, and I'll go
yeah.
slower on some of the rares.
And yeah, and like you'll see a card that's the same color as another one, and you could have one of those crazy combos, just already in one set. Like you never know when you might pull, and they could be different colors, but a lot of the time it could be like the same color where this pairs really really well with another card. So as I've mentioned, and I've put it in its place at this point. Unstoppable Slasher and Bloodletter of Aclazotz are those two cards in tandem are just the crazy combination right now. But there's just endless strategies, man. Endless fun to be had.
Well, I think we should wrap up on
Let's do
that
it.
note.
Yeah, we'll save everything else for the next time.
Do we have
So,
an
yeah.
outro? Did you do an outro last time?
I think I did. I said something like, well, we appreciate you all. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.